Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of What's Happening Now with C&I Solutions. As always, remember to like, share, and comment on this broadcast live, as there could be some information here not only useful to yourself, but maybe to a neighbor, friend, or relative. As remember, we did have our big Braidathon last Sunday. It was outstanding, and tonight's host we got here in the studio with us, we got one of the sponsors, Mr. Mo.
How you doing?
Is it Asmar?
Yes.
From Hair Queen itself, here to talk about that, and then also to talk about Hair Queen and exactly how they got started, because they've got so many new brands coming out, so many different things, products they have, and I'm telling you, the story that they got is phenomenal. And Mo, welcome. Let's talk about that.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Good, good. So, how did Hair Queen get started?
Originally, my father opened up our first beauty supply store in 1999. It was actually a dollar store.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with beauty. And my oldest brother turned it into a beauty supply store. And this was in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I grew up. Most of my family actually grew up from there. Household, my mom and dad had nine kids. And all of us were relatively close with each other. Mm-hmm. But overall, yeah, we started in 1999, and then we kind of was stuck at one store for like 15 years. But in 2015, my brother AJ, and he was in Chicago, and he decided to come down south to open up a beauty supply store with my father, and that's where Hair Queen was born. We actually were sitting on a dinner table, and we were thinking about names, and I think that name just came up and it just rung a bell, and we're like, all right, that's the name. And our first location was in Meridian, Mississippi. 2 years later, we opened our first location in Huntsville, which is where I come in. I run the operations in Huntsville. And now we have 3 locations in Alabama, 1 in Mississippi, and 2 in Louisiana, 7 strong. And we also have another business called the Retail University. We have Meltdown, which is a product line. So just from 2015 to now, which is about 7 to 8 years, the growth was exponentially better. And the main reason was because me and my brothers finally kind of like put our money / energy all together instead of being separate. It was like, one brother was in Chicago, another brother was doing his thing with his store. I had a cell phone store. So everybody kind of did their own thing, but nobody was relatively successful, honestly.
Right. So you mentioned, first of all, congratulations on the number of stores you got. That is awesome to be real. There's 3 here in Alabama. I know 2 in Huntsville. Where's the other one?
Decatur.
In Decatur.
Yes.
Okay, in Decatur, Alabama. All right. So y'all started a new product line.
Yes.
Where did that innovation come from? Who thought of that? Who said, you know what, let's do our own thing, guys?
Well, we've always wanted to, but in the beauty supply industry, if you know anything about it, it's a very cutthroat industry.
Mm-hmm.
And meaning the distributors that sell the products to the beauty supply stores, they mainly have all the power, whether they want to sell your product or not to the beauty supply stores. Because it's very hard to sell a product to 10,000 locations. It's just much easier to go to a distributor, sell him that product, and he already has a network of locations that he sells to a million other products. So it's very tough to just sell your own product by yourself, unless you're doing e-commerce. Now, if you're doing online, it's a different story.
Right.
Now, we came up with the ideas because, I'm in my beauty supply store every day, and I'm selling 500 brands, and none of them are mine. None are mine.
Right.
So, but we wanted to do it right. Number one, whether that was the formula, which product to choose. There's hundreds of products to choose from.
Right.
From natural products to non-natural to shampoos, conditioners, leave-in conditioner, hair colors, oils, so many different. And then you want to decide on which flavors. So with that being said, the same thing. We kind of sat down, me, AJ, and OT, to think about the name. And now our first product was the lace glue, which basically glues down a wig for a lady, and they can wear that. Back in the day, they didn't have that. This is something new and innovative where you have a lace wig and the glue attaches to the lace, and it basically makes it look natural. And that's how the meltdown name came about. We kind of, if you think about it, it's like a lace melts,
Right.
and then you melting it down. So that's kind of where we came out with the name. But now we're expanding to natural hair products, which is where we came out with Meltdown Earth, which is just a natural hair care line: shampoo, conditioner, moisturizer, oil, leave-in conditioner spray. And honestly, we did that in 2019. And we turned a $10,000 investment into a $5 million business so far. It's been 4 years.
Outstanding.
It's amazing. We're in about 2,500 stores in the whole country. We sell online. We go to all the trade shows. A lot of time spent, a lot of money spent. But overall, it's when you're building your own brand versus building your own business, the brand is so much harder until you make it.
Right.
When you make it and you're successful, it's a different story because now you have full control of that brand.
Right.
But when it comes to in the beginning, how am I supposed to compete with? If I was doing, let's just say I was doing a hand soap, how am I, a non-name brand known, supposed to compete with Dove?
Right. Right.
Same thing with natural products. There's so many. You have Miel, you have Shea Moisture, you have Curls. There's so many known name brands that are already worth 50 million. What's going to convince the customer, especially with natural hair? Women are very particular with the product that they put in their hair, whether it's the ingredients, the brand. They basically listen to influencers.
Yes.
So if you're not, if the influencer is not pushing your brand, people are, what's going to make them buy it? That's the biggest question.
Right.
Because anybody can come out with a brand. Are you making money off that brand? I can come out with a clothing line and it says my name on it and everything. But is it translating into profits? Is it making money?
Right.
Are you doing something with that brand? And that's the discrepancy between, having a successful brand and just having a brand there.
Okay. You mentioned a few things. You talked about retail university. You talked about e-commerce. Let's talk about e-commerce first. For those who are out there watching in Texas and Pennsylvania, Arizona, if they wanted to get a Meltdown product, how could they get something? Will y'all ship to them?
Oh yeah. We do e-commerce, shopmeltdown.com.
Okay.
And you have all our products there. We've shipped all over the country. We've shipped to Africa before. We've shipped.
Oh wow.
We've shipped all over the world actually. Just depending if they're willing to pay the shipping.
All right. So I watched AJ, your brother AJ, a lot. I've seen a lot of his TikToks.
Yes.
He's really, really big in there and with the retail and university. Talk to us about that. Talk to our viewers a little bit about retail university. What is happening with that?
Okay, so the retail university, it's crazy because it started off as one thing and then we kind of pivoted to another, and now we're pivoting back. And that's just how business is.
Right.
If you've ever been to a business, it's all planning and executing, and if it doesn't work, try to execute something else. But AJ is our marketing expert, shall I say. He's from day one. He's always handled our marketing.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to speak. He knows how to get in front of the camera. He dresses very well, and he's very approachable, shall I say. So when you're watching someone online and they're approachable, you're more likely to just watch that person. But overall, with the retail university, what we do is we help beauty supply stores. At this point, we help beauty supply stores train and give knowledge to their employees through short 2 to 3 minute videos. Now, originally, what we did is we took a stylist because we knew how to build a brand.
Mm-hmm.
That was our original plan, and we can basically take a stylist that is doing hair and we say, hey, why don't you create a brand and we'll help you with that manufacturing, labeling, design, logo design. Showing you how to do e-commerce, showing you how to, because it's not just a matter of getting a product. You have to know how to sell it, know how to store it, know how to manage it, etc. So when it comes to the retail university, we tried that. We actually successfully launched 18 different brands and I think 95%, most of them were Black-owned stylists, whether it was a man or a woman. And they all kind of did their own thing, and it was amazing. We created that brand for them. They were happy. There was not one unsatisfied customer. The reason why we stopped doing it is because it's tough.
Yeah.
It's hard to Everyone has, when you're building your brand, you can do what you want with it, especially if you have the funds.
Right.
If I'm building you a brand, and you're like super picky or you're this, it just halts everything, the whole process down.
Right.
And we had it's a lot of work. We didn't make no money. We charged that person 10 grand and we gave them 10 grand worth of products.
Right.
Whether it was products, whether it was, they walked out. So this is what they did. They paid 10 grand. They left with a website. They left with, I think, $2,000 worth of merchandise. Cost price value was like, retail value was like 15 grand. They walked out with a brand new logo, whether they had one or not. We hooked them up with a logo designer. Shout out to B. Cole. And they left with a brand ready to be launched. The website is ready to do orders. All they had to do was maintain it and grow it.
Wow.
So now we pivoted the Retail University to teaching business owners. The number one thing in our beauty industry nowadays is not appreciating the customer,
right?
Not knowing what products you carry in the store. Because in our store, we have over 50,000 different products. It's very easily, if you're not interested in that product, you're just there to collect money. You're not too interested in learning, because it's a trend. It's like clothes and fashion. You could be very fashionable 10 years ago. If you're not up to date, people are gonna look at you crazy. If you're dressing like they were 10 years ago, you know? Even though fashion repeats itself, but it does have a little tweak to it.
Right.
So with beauty, a lot of the beauty supply store owners, they have these employees, and these are not franchise locations. These are not professional locations. So they don't have proper sales training.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have proper onboarding. Even paperwork is half-assed, honestly.
Right.
So, and I was doing the same thing until I hired, whether it was an HR lady that taught me how to do everything, whether it was the sales training. We actually paid Grant Cardone to give us a whole bunch of information for that. And we kind of combined that into a website called Lightspeed. And this website basically, so if you're a business owner and you have, let's just say, 10 employees, our goal is to train that employee for you when it comes to sales, product knowledge, etiquette, knowing how to speak, knowing how to dress. Because a lot of things are common sense, but most people just don't do these little common sense things.
Exactly.
If you work in a beauty supply store, it's common sense to have your hair done, to look presentable, but a lot of people just don't see it that way. When you're in sales, it's common sense to always upsell something or make sure that you're maximizing for that customer.
Right.
People just don't do it. So when it comes, if you're a business owner and you're a lot of people are leaving money on the table. That's how I like to look at it. Yeah, you might be making money, but you're leaving a lot of money on the table when it comes to sales aspect. If you can increase each customer just $3 and you have 6,000 customers a month, which is what I have, that's 18 grand a month that you're losing.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. Some people look at it as $3 per customer. I'm looking at it times 6,000 times 12. That's over $250,000 a year in sales. And that's just from one employee raising per customer.
Right.
So a business is a numbers game, and you always have to look at it from the smallest number to the biggest number. From costs and ins and outs.
I like what you said. Business is a numbers game, because I got a question on that. But viewers out there, if you got any questions for Mo, please let us know. Our producer will put that stuff in the chat. Put it in the chat. And Mo's here to answer any of those questions that you have. So here's a question for you. Typically, in every major city throughout the United States, the beauty shops the beauty shops where you buy hair are typically ran by the Asian descent.
Correct.
How did you break that mold? How did y'all guys say, you know what? We're cracking the code. We're getting in there. Right. Because I really even see African American beauty shops like this. So how did y'all crack that code?
That goes back to what I said. This is a cutthroat industry, and the companies that sell the hair and the products have all the power. So the hardest thing, it's a lot easier now than what it was, let's just say 10 years ago.
Right.
Whether you were black, Arab, or whatever. If you weren't of Asian descent, then because the companies are owned by Asians as well.
Right.
The manufacturers that make the hair is owned by Asians. So these guys really, they're smart. I can't lie with their business.
Right.
I got to give it to them in that aspect because they're manufacturing, wholesaling, and retailing. So they're touching all three parts
Right.
of the of the structure for business
Right.
when it comes to retail sales in the beauty industry. So normally what happens is if let's just say you, Charles, are coming to Huntsville and there's no other stores but a couple Asian stores.
Mm-hmm.
Those Asian stores, the first thing you need in your store is what? Merchandise.
Right.
You can't make money without merchandise. You can have a building, you can have whatever. If you don't have the right merchandise, you cannot sell. Doesn't matter how much support you can get.
Right.
You can't make money without merchandise. So what they do is they call that company and say, hey, do not sell to him. And if you do, I will not buy from you. Not just me and all the other 7 locations in Huntsville.
Wow.
So now I will tell you this, that's a bluff. Because they can't make money without their merchandise either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But the company usually doesn't call that bluff. Unless you're someone like what I did. Okay, so even me, let's just say, okay, because money talks. And
Right.
they don't, at the end of the day, bottom line, money talks.
Money's going to
They don't
talk.
care. When it comes to money, they don't care if it's Asian, black, white, whatever. But ultimately, if you have a very powerful beauty supply store that's Asian, it's hard to outbuy him.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard, especially if he's been here for 20 years. He built a relationship with these companies, and that relationship is very, very strong.
Right.
So when I first came to Huntsville, just for example, 80% of the companies wouldn't sell to me. What I had to do is go drive every week to Meridian, 3.5, 4 hours, because we had the accounts there. We're the
Right.
only store in that city. Order it from there, drive back, load up the store. That was my process for 6 months.
Wow.
And it was tough. It was very tough because it's so much extra expenses at that point, whether it's gas, whether it's paying for employees, and it's just, it's extra for nothing when I can be getting the product directly.
Right.
Now, some companies, they sold me, which is 20% of the companies. And we went on. Now, most of them, 95%, there's only one company that has not come to my door yet. But 6 months in after I opened, when they realized I was opening location number 2 in Huntsville,
Mm-hmm.
and they realized I was already getting their merchandise with or without that specifics, because when it comes to these hair companies, they have salespeople in each state.
Right.
So each salesperson controls each state, and that guy decides who gets to sell hair in their beauty supply store. So it just kind of gives you a background of hair sales. You can't just call a company and say, hey, I want a couple boxes of braiding hair and let me get it. It's much more complicated than that. So after 6 months, they started coming one by one. Hey, I see you have my product. Yeah, no thanks to you, well, I want to go ahead and open the account. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead. Now, I kind of had the power to say, okay, well, if you want me to open, then go ahead and stop selling to him.
Right.
And some of them did, and some of them didn't. And now I kind of like get to pick and choose which company I want, because when I come to them, I'm like, hey, especially now, and I see that I'm giving you my full support as a business owner, wholesale retailer, and you're a wholesaler, and I have 80% of your stuff in my store. I'm going to expect to kind of be exclusive within a certain amount of mile radius. So let's just say, hey, if I have your product and your product is called Charles, and I want to sell your product, and most of my store has your product in it, I'm going to say, hey, if someone does come in, can you not sell them within a 5-mile radius?
Right.
Because it's just conflict of interest at that
Correct.
point. Now, that's a difference between saying, hey, if you sell to him, I will boycott you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm creating a relationship that says, okay, there's a million other companies, but this specific company, I have a very strong relationship with.
Right.
Now, what they did is they said, all you guys, all 12, 13 major companies, which is owned by like 3-4 people, if you guys, all of y'all, if y'all sell to him, we will all now, even though they're not affiliated. Well, no, I'm talking about the Asians,
Right.
here, whether it's Solid Gold or Classy or JE or all the, it was like 10 of them. They formed an alliance against the Hair Queen and said, "Hey, if any of your companies sell, then we're going to return all your merchandise to you, and we're not going to sell your merchandise." So, like I said, some of them called their bluff and
Right.
sold me. Some of them didn't, and eventually, now I have the power. But I have no hard feelings, because ultimately, when you have good intentions in business,
Right.
yours will come to you.
Right.
As long as you hustle, you work hard, and you outwork whoever it is that you're trying to outwork.
Right.
That's my main thing.
And I can tell you this, just being around you, Mo, and watching your brother and watching OT, you guys have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah.
Y'all guys are hustlers. Y'all actually dig in and y'all try to make things happen.
Right.
Owning a hair shop do we have any questions out there? Owning a hair shop as a male.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn? Because I listened to you ramble off. Oh, you need a 2B. What you want? Essence, such and such. Oh, you need to have this. How long did it take you to learn all of those products and what women need and what they're looking for, to understand what they're looking for?
Great question. Not long at all. Why? Because I love what I do.
Excellent.
It's just hard to keep up with the trends. Now, I also have my employees to help me with that. But overall, no matter what it is you're doing, if you do it every day, you're going to become good at it. Now, that's what I did. It was something that I did every day. Even though when I first started doing it, I knew nothing about hair. I didn't know colors. I didn't know what braiding hair was. I didn't know natural hair products, nothing. And because I wanted to learn and I wanted to be informed,
right.
When a customer asks me, "Hey, what's the best product that you have for my type of curly hair?" Because when it comes to curly hair, there's different types. You have 2C, 3C, 4C, which is the thickness of the hair.
Right.
Specific products might not work with that specific type of hair. So you have to know these things, whether it's hair color, how to bleach. And within all that, it's all experimenting and learning. And sometimes I don't know everything, but I'm willing to listen.
Right.
And that's what helps me out. But honestly, I would say if you're trying to learn the beauty industry and you, Mr. Charles, you wanted to come and learn beauty. If you worked with me for 2 months, you know everything. 2 months.
Hey, viewers, y'all heard that? I could be in the hair queen business as well. I like this, learning that 2C, 3C. Easy. I like this. He says I can do it. Look like we got a question out there on the board. As soon as Ms. Kai can get it put up, we'll get that put up for you, and we'll answer that question for you. So earlier I was talking with you, and I just rambled off. Well, if you got like 8 siblings, like this, we'll talk about that. But here you said you have 9, and I was just joking about 8 siblings. How does that work? Or where are you at in that 9?
I'm number 7.
Number 7.
And I have a twin brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
He's the one running in. He's in Mississippi.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't look alike. We're fraternal twins.
Fraternal twins. Okay.
And yeah, I have a twin brother, and I'm number 7. I have all the way from my oldest brother. His name is Alex, and I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers, so it's 9 of us total. And yeah, I mean, honestly, it's tough because, especially growing up, because when your father is in business, a lot of the opportunities are first given to the older brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they mess up, there's no opportunity coming for the younger guys. You know what I'm saying? Because the trust is gone.
The trust is gone.
so it happened. It happened a couple times to where I'm like, it's not fair because you got him a car when he was 17. Now he crashed it. I don't get a car when I'm 17, for example. It's tough, but honestly, I'm blessed. My parents did a great job of raising us. They did not, and every family goes through a tough time.
Right.
We had our tough time in I think it was from 2008 to 2011, 2012. It was pretty tough. Our businesses weren't doing well. We shut down our businesses, except for one, the original one from 1999. And it was a lesson learned from business, because we are all when you fail in business, it's nothing but a mistake that has to be addressed.
Right.
And now, if you address that mistake, you can fix it and move on. But if you don't address that mistake, it lingers and gets bigger and bigger until your business shuts down.
Exactly.
So, and that's all business is, because there's no perfect business. I don't care if it's the biggest business in the world, from Apple to Amazon, they all have problems that need to be solved. And that's all it is, addressing the issue at hand, and then seeing how moving forward we can make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Right, right. So one of the questions the viewers out there got, it says, is the Asian monopoly the reason why it seems like the very few non-Asian owned businesses seem to not get regular restock on inventory? I noticed a non-Asian business will open and be well stocked for the first 4 to 6 months, but after that, it seems like they rarely get new inventory in.
That is correct. That goes back to what I said when it comes to, but that doesn't mean that's the full answer to every business, because if they're very well stocked from the first 4 to 6 months, I'm going to assume that they already have those accounts to be able to get the merchandise, unless, like I said, that Asian store did something to the company and said, hey, I don't want you to sell to him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then that company listens. You know what I'm saying? And then now that specific guy was getting that same merchandise. Now he can't get it. Either he has to find another way to get it from someone like me, and I upcharge him. Right. And now he has to sell it for more. And that's actually what I used to do. I used to buy from my cousins and people from different states and say, hey, do me a $20,000 order, and I have to pay $25,000 because this guy got to make his money too.
Right.
And now I have to charge that upcharge to my customers.
Right.
But to answer your question, I would say yes to some and no to others, because ultimately I've seen some businesses that was fully stocked for a full year, but they mismanaged their money and they're not able to, because at the end of the day, to get merchandise, you need money.
Right. Right.
And if you're mismanaging your money, if I made 10 grand and out of that 10 grand, 5 is cost of the product, 1,000 is rent, 1,000 is employees, and then the rest of the bills is another 1,000. I'm left with $2,000 profit.
Right.
Now, what am I going to do with that 2,000? Am I going to go put it on a down payment on a car? Or am I going to reinvest it? That's the real question.
Right.
So the goal is to always reinvest it until you have enough passive income where your merchandise. For example, in Hair Queen, we started with 400 grand in merchandise. Mm-hmm. Right now, in each location, I have $2.2 million in merchandise.
Wow.
So that's almost $5 million in merchandise within 4 years. But that's because every dollar we made, we reinvested it into merchandise, new products,
right,
and increasing our inventory. Ultimately, the Asians have a lot to do with whether the products get delivered to a certain store or not. I will say that, yeah. It's a 50-50.
Wow.
Sometimes it's mismanagement, and then sometimes it hasn't, because you don't know. How am I supposed to know that company, that my competition called the company to tell me? Because the company's not going to be like, hey, by the way, this guy told us not to sell to you, so we're not going to sell to you. He's going to make up some BS and be like, hey, we're out of this merchandise.
Right.
Keep telling you for the next 6 months until you get the point.
And
then you stop calling.
You stop
That's
calling.
what happened.
Right.
And that's what happened a lot with the Black-owned beauty supply stores back in the day. I would say right now it's a lot easier to open any store, not just beauty supply store, for any community, as long as you have the right tools and funds.
Right.
But back then, those Asian companies, they did not sell to Black-owned salons, Black-owned. Now they try to. They intentionally reach out to Black-owned because it's a good look now. Right. Back then, nobody cared whether you sold or who. It didn't have any backlash.
Right.
Nowadays, you can get called out online as a company, and guess what? Now it's uproar.
Right.
So they're scared of that. So they're not as biased as they used to be. But they will still have obstacles. I know specific people that they went to companies and they'll be like, hey, I want to order $5,000 worth of merchandise. This is what I have. which is 5,000 is nothing in our industry.
Right.
When you're buying merchandise, especially beauty supply, 5,000 don't get you much. I'm gonna be honest with you. But what they'll do is they'll be like, oh, well, minimum order is 30,000 because they know you can't afford that 30.
Right.
Or if you have 30, they'll tell you, well, minimum order is 100,000. They'll keep going up until they reach a number that you know you can't hit. So now what that does is they're not biased anymore. They have a policy. Their policy is minimum order 100 grand.
Right.
So ultimately, they can still find a way around it. But the only way to mainly get products, because nowadays it's not just one company. So if this guy doesn't want to sell to me, well, the hell with you. I'm going to go find another company.
Right.
There's so many different companies out there that are progressive nowadays, that are more wide open. They're younger. They're not, because a lot of the companies, they're like old school. These guys the owners are like 90 years old,
Right.
and 80 years old, and they're following through the paths of what they're supposed to do. And then you have some new companies where the owners are like 30 and 40, and they understand America, and they understand the culture, and they understand the lingo of, hey, at the end of the day, whether he's black, white, Muslim, or non-Muslim, or Asian, doesn't matter. I have nothing against Asians, because there's some beauty supply store owners that are Asian that I'm cool with, that I met through networking or and whatnot. But then some of them hate me as well. I'm gonna be honest with you. They just don't like what we're doing because they feel like we're taking over their business. Because you got to think about it. These guys, now they did start this business back in the 70s and 80s. And I want to say the ratio from non-Asian to Asian was 90% Asian and 10% non-Asian. I think now it's probably like 60-40.
60-40 split.
Yeah. Because a lot of Asians either sold or closed because they couldn't keep up. These are older people, man, and their kids are lawyers and doctors, and they studied in their school. You know the stigma behind Asians. They love to send their kids to school, and they don't. So they're not following in their parents' footsteps.
Right.
Versus Arabs, like I've been working since I was 13 years old. As soon as I left the 6th grade, my mom picked me up, and I'm going straight to my dad's store. So it's a whole different culture. Right. So what happens is once they turn 60 and 70, they're getting so old. They're like, well, if I don't have a son to take over, or he's successful, he's doing something else, then I'm either going to sell or close. And that's what happened to a lot of Asian beauty supply stores. But hopefully, honestly, it's changing. The beauty supply industry itself, whether it's Asian or non-Asian, what we try to do is change the industry. It's not right to watch your customers. It's not right to judge a customer based on how she's dressed. That woman is coming to change, to get something to beautify herself.
Right.
So she's not going to come in beautiful, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She's coming in to get hair. It's like me going into a barbershop. You're going to judge me based on how I'm going before. Nah, judge me after I get my cut.
Right.
So it's the same thing with beauty. And we have an unspoken rule in our store. We don't judge based on appearance. Same thing with whether you have a big purse or not, or whether it's just a lot of stigma that I feel like. And it doesn't have to just be Asians. I'm going to be honest with you. There's some Arabs that do the same thing.
Right.
There is. And I've seen them. They judge people based on how they look. That's not a good thing. Same thing with the way the store looks. Most beauty supply stores, old schools, they look janky as hell. Very tight aisles.
Yeah. I was going to mention that. I was going to bring that up and visiting both your locations, and I've been there. And I always say, why is this thing so clean like this?
Yeah, we spent $500,000.
I mean, folks, if you ever come to Huntsville, for those who are watching from out of town, out of state, if you ever come to Huntsville for whatever reason, make a stop to go visit Hair Queen 1 and 2. And I'm telling you, when you walk in and you see how the stores are set up, you're like, wow. And like you said, the people working in there, they're there to help you. No one's trying to follow you around and say what you do. I walked in there because I like to use a lot of I don't want to call them lady products, but there's a certain type of grease I like to use in my hair.
Right.
I don't use the male grease. I use the female grease. Right. And the young lady was like, oh, is this what you need right here, sir? I'm like, man, that's exactly what I need. Right. Thank you. Like this. And after that, she went left, I went right, and that was it. Right. She didn't follow me around. Wasn't nobody. The camera wasn't zooming around like this, looking at me like this. And I thought that was awesome. because it gives you a sense of pride and relaxation. Like, you know what? I like visiting here. I like coming in here, shopping and getting what I need. There's people who understand what I want.
Right.
They understand what I need. No one's following me around the store like this. What are you doing with that? Please put that back right there, sir. You know, and that is awesome, man. And I have to applaud you for that. I have to applaud you guys for doing that and instilling that inside your employees and helping them understand that, because a lot of businesses do not do that.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all of us customers are going to be on the up and up.
I was just about to say
we're not all going to be on the up and up, and I know that. But for those who are regal, who are honest, it makes them feel good to know that somebody's not watching them, someone's not tracking them when they're trying to buy a product like this. And I think that is awesome.
So I will say this: it's all about perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, I mean, yes, there will be some people that steal from my store.
Mm-hmm.
There will be people that don't have good intentions, and they're whatever they're trying to steal. But that's like 2% of my customers.
Right.
Worst case scenario, let's just say 5%. Right. So if every 100 customers come in, 5 steal, I'm gonna make 95 uncomfortable because 5 stole.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. So I'm not gonna let a couple people ruin it for the rest of my customers because a couple of people want to steal. Now you never know who is and who isn't. That's
right.
That's the tricky part. It's like Steve's are slick. They're not gonna tell you, hey, I'm about to steal this product. They're gonna do it slickly. So and that you have to find the discrepancy between that. At the end of the day, being aware, just like you have a boyfriend and you notice red flags, when you're in a business, thieves give off red flags. And as long as you pay attention to those red flags, you can signal that person out.
Right.
But on the everyday person, just because she has or looks a certain way, I'm going to watch her. That's not a good perspective.
Right.
I'm going to judge you based on your actions.
Exactly. I love it. So 7 stores, 3 here in Alabama. What's next?
Honestly, we're done with retail.
Okay.
It's a tough business to operate day to day. We're trying to get into more of the services.
Okay.
Which is why we came out with the Retail University of training. And Retail University is not just going to be for stores. It's going to be for stylists. It's going to be for furniture stores. It's going to be for beauty supply stores. It's going to be for anyone that wants to learn sales and learn business.
Excellent.
So we're trying to take that to the next level, but that takes time to build, to get out there, et cetera, et cetera. But overall, what's next? Honestly, it's all we're trying to do is keep growing our current businesses. A lot of times we're so worried about what's the next thing and what's this,
right,
when I could be improving what I already have.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So, instead of me opening another store and selling an extra $1 million a year, I can put that focus toward my current store and I can still sell an extra $1 million a year.
Right.
I just got to put that effort in. So that's kind of what we've been more focusing on is sales training our employees, etiquette, making sure our employees are happy, paying my employees. Mm-hmm. We don't do minimum wage around here. We start everyone at 12, but that's just a start. And I have people on salary making $60,000, $70,000 a year, and these are just assistant managers and key holders.
Right.
So we want to make sure that the employees that we have, because at the end of the day, you get what you pay for, no matter what it is.
Right.
If it's a product or if it's you're paying for employment. If you're paying $10 an hour, $9 an hour, $8 an hour, et cetera, you're going to receive that kind of work. Mm-hmm. So what we try to do is make sure, number one, we take care of you, whether it's your pay, and then taking care of you with your comfortability. Because being comfortable and happy where you work, you're more likely to get shit done. Right. If you're not happy, you're going to be complaining and you're ready to go home. You dread coming in, etc.
Yes. There's one thing I do want to point out that you mentioned, here at CNOW Solutions, we teach the entrepreneurial course and we teach those who want to start a business and how to get out there. And one of the things that I explain to all these young entrepreneurs as they get started, yes, in the beginning, you will do everything.
Right.
Yes, you will be that delivery driver. You're going to be that accountant. You're going to be the janitor. You're going to be on that. But you said something that was very important that a lot of the viewers and a lot of those who are going to be entrepreneurs need to understand. You are that person at one time, but then you took time and said, you know what, I need to hire somebody who knows how to do this. Specifically, that's what they do.
Yes.
They learned how to do that. Okay, I got that HR person who showed me how this. Now I'm going to hire this person specifically because that's what they do. And that's what's going to catapult your business to the next level.
Yes.
Because you're not going to know all those things when you first start out.
Right.
Like this, yeah, you have to do them. But as you start to get a little bit of that capital coming in, and you can afford to pay someone to be your website designer, do it.
Yes.
If you can afford to pay someone to be your accountant, do it.
Yes.
Just because they're the ones who actually know that stuff and know how to do it the right way versus the way you were doing it. Not to say that you was doing it wrong, but they can enhance it and make it better for you. Right. And that is very important. I'm glad you mentioned that because, man, so many young entrepreneurs don't get that. They think they can just carry the load all the way through, and you can't. You can't, guys. You know, you can't do that.
I will say this. You can do that if you want, and it might work, it might not. But I will say this, if you're the one that's always doing everything, then you have no time to progress. You have no time to stop and think and say, okay, where's our future? Okay, what are we doing next? What's next year? What's this year? You're always worried about checking out and taking out the trash and doing this and taking out the boxes and making sure the orders are good. So you have no time to look at your mistakes.
Right.
You're always running around left and right. So, and that's actually what I was doing when I first came. I did everything, even though I had employees, but the major stuff I did. And now I do what I do is make sure that everyone gets their job done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the most important job is having accountability for your employees, but good accountability.
Right.
Because I'm not on top of it. I go based on results and what's the word I'm looking for? Because, for example, for my employees, yeah, they get their regular pay, but I also have a sales commission that I do for them. Mm-hmm. So every dollar they make 1%. But at the end of the month, that adds up.
Right.
So on average, I give about $4,000 a month every month to my employees besides their pay. Now, it's not each person, obviously, but this is, each person might. So, for example, if she sells $20K, which is very easy in the Views Pastor, she gets $200 extra per month.
Right.
She sells $30K, she gets this. So it's not it's limitless.
Right.
And each store that we have, we sell $200K a month. That's an extra $2,000 a month that you have the potential to make as a salesperson.
Exactly.
Besides all that, we do giveaways on merchandise, gift cards based on sales, based on performance, et cetera, et cetera. So, and besides all that, your pay increase. We have a structure. Most companies, it's like, okay, you've been here for a year. All right, I'm going to give you 50 cents. You've been here for 6 months. All right, I'm going to raise you $1. My raises are performance-based.
Right.
You want 13? This is what you have to do. You want 14? This is what you have to do. You want 15? Do this and you'll get it.
Right.
So everything is performance-based.
Outstanding. Mo, I appreciate you coming in and spending time with us.
Thank you for
letting our viewers ask some questions and get to know you. Is there anything you would like to share with the viewers and things before we proceed?
Honestly, I just want to shout you guys out, CNI Solutions. I love what y'all do here. Anyone that's following them, make sure that you guys support, because a nonprofit like this, the amount of impact that they can have with their community all depends on the support that they have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Hey, we appreciate for all you all tuning in. And always remember, your yesterday is not your today, and your today is not your tomorrow. Good night.